Arann was a regional airline based in Dublin, Ireland. The airline operated scheduled services on behalf of Aer Lingus Regional. The airline had 3 bases in Cork, Dublin and Shannon which operated under the Aer Lingus Regional brand. On March 19, 2014, Aer Arann announced that it would be changing its corporate name to Stobart Air by the end of 2014. History The beginning Aer Arann was established in 1970 by James Cohen and Ralph Langan to provide an island-hopping air service between Galway and the Aran Islands off the west coast of Ireland. Operations, using a single Briton-Norman Islander, began in August 1970. This service has since been moved to the less distant Connemara Airport and operates as Aer Arann Islands. As of 2015 it still used Islander aircraft. Purchased by Padraig O'Carr copyrighted I and Eugene O'Kelly. The turning point for the airline was in 1994 when Padraig O'Carr copyrighted I and Eugene O'Kelly purchased the airline. O'Carr copyrighted I and O'Kelly began to expand the airline's routes and fleet, launching scheduled services in 1998. Also in 1998, the Irish government awarded the airline a public service obligation route between Donegal and Dublin followed by the PSO route between Sligo and Dublin. Expansion In 2002, service to the United Kingdom and Jersey was introduced, followed by service to Lorient and Nantes in Brittany in 2004. In 2007, Aer Arann had a turnover of 100 million and passenger numbers in excess of 1.15 million. In 2008, in recognition of the company's marketing achievements, the head of sales and marketing, Colin Lewis was awarded the All-Ireland Marketing Leader of the Year award by the Marketing Institute of Ireland. In 2008, Aer Arann entered into a franchise agreement with Nex Aviation and introduced service to Amsterdam, Bordeaux, Malaga and Faro, using British Aerospace 146 aircraft during the summer months. The Amsterdam service, which was operated by an ATR 72-500, ended on January 14, 2009. Dealing with the economic downturn In October 2008, the airline announced that it would be implementing a cost-saving program, due to the downturn in passenger traffic, which would involve some focus on charter flights and leasing of aircraft and their crews to other airlines. The airline stated that up to 100 redundancies would be needed, but this was later revised to 70 which would represent a 20% reduction of staff. The airline's key routes were to remain unchanged. In January 2010, Aer Arann and Aer Lingus founded Aer Lingus Regional which effectively removed Aer Arann's hubs at Cork and Dublin under the new airline. In July 2010, Aer Arann confirmed it would end flights between Cork-Belfast and Cork-Dublin from August 31, 2010. The company's press release stated, "OU sincerely regret having to suspend these services and the inconvenience that it will cause our loyal customers on both routes. Unfortunately however we have an aircraft leaving the fleet and this is an obvious but regrettable impact on our schedule." Aer Arann had operated flights on the Cork to Dublin route since 2001 and began service from Cork to Belfast in March 2004 after the demise of the airline Jet Magic. Aer Arann now no longer operates from Cork Airport in its own entity but continues to expand its presence at Cork under the Aer Lingus Regional brand. Entering examinership On August 26, 2010 an examiner was appointed to Aer Arann. A full hearing of the Campania Euro unregistered trademark S application took place on September 8 and Aer Arann was in interim examinership under the protection of the court. All Aer Arann flights continued to operate normally. It was understood by the High Court in Dublin that Aer Arann would return to profitability in 2011. Change of ownership In October 2010, British logistics company Stobart Group was named as the preferred buyer for the airline, also announcing that the airline would serve London Southend Airport from March 2011 to destinations in Ireland and possibly France and open a base there. On November 10, 2010, the deal was completed. Aer Arann is now owned by Everdeal Limited, which at the time became 67.5% owned by Padraig O'Carr copyrighted I, Aer Arann's chairman. 27.5% owned by Tim Kylroe, a UK-based businessman. And 5% owned by the Stobart Group, through 35 preference shares over 1 each acquired on November 10, 2010. Stobart Group entered into an option to increase its shareholding by a further 27.5% to 32.5%. On April 7, 2011, Aer Arann confirmed it would end its PSO routes after the Irish government withdrew funding for the routes, which included Dublin to Galway, Knock and Sligo. In October 2011, Aer Arann announced it would suspend all services from Galway Airport. Axed routes included Galway to Edinburgh, London Luton, London Southend, Manchester and Lorient. The company said the routes were financially no longer viable. Galway Airport then confirmed it would have to make redundant 40 staff due to losing the airport's only operator. On February 8, 2012, Aer Arann's chief executive Paul Schutz resigned, and was replaced by Sean Brogan, the head of Stobart Ireland. This gave Stobart Group management control of the airline, and prompted speculation that it would exercise its option to increase its 5% stake in Everdeel Limited by a further 27.5% to 32.5%. Ending operations in its own name. On March 2, 2012, it was confirmed that Aer Arann was in final discussions to transfer all of its own operated flights to the Aer Lingus Regional brand. This would mean Aer Arann would operate on behalf of Aer Lingus Regional, with the airline no longer operating routes as its own entity. On March 14, 2012, Aer Arann confirmed it would no longer exist in its own entity from April 10, 2012. All its services transferred to Aer Lingus Regional on March 25, streamlining services to a single brand, with the one remaining route operated on an ARI flight number, London City to Isle of Man, ceasing on April 10. On November 6, 2012, Aer Arann announced it was pulling out of Waterford, as its services had not performed to a sustainable level. However, it did not rule out returning to Waterford in the future, if the business case can be justified. On December 12, 2012, Stobart Group exercised its option to increase its 5% shareholding in Everdeel Limited by 27.5% to 32.5%. and acquired a further 12.5% of the company, taking its stake to 45%. This diluted Chairman Padraig Carr copyrighted I's shareholding to 47.5% and Tim Kylro's shareholding to 7.5%. On January 25, 2013, Aer Arann's Chairman Padraig Carr copyrighted I resigned. Stobart Group was therefore expected to buy his 47.5% shareholding in Everdeel Limited by the beginning of February 2013. This would have enabled it to have a 92.5% controlling stake in the airline. On April 30, 2013, Aer Arann's ownership was restructured. It is now owned by Everdeel Holdings Limited, which is 45% owned by the Stobart Group, 42% owned by Invesco, 8% owned by Senco Securities, and 5% owned by Padraig Carr copyrighted I, Aer Arann's former chairman. Stobart Group has an option to acquire complete control of the airline, by increasing its shareholding by a further 55% to 100%. Disappearance. On March 19, 2014, Aer Arann announced that it would be changing its corporate name to Stobart Air by the end of 2014. Destinations. Fleet. The Aer Arann fleet, which exclusively operated for Aer Lingus Regional, included the following aircraft, with an average fleet age of 11.2 years. Former fleet. Aer Arann operated the following aircraft types: Bauer 146-200, wet leased from Nex Aviation and CityJet in summer 2008, Fokker 50, Piper PA-31 Navajo, Saab 340, one aircraft leased from March 2010, Short 360, 1998, 2001. Services. Gold Circle Club. Since the transition to Aer Lingus Regional, Aer Arann had announced that flights in qualifying booking classes will earn Aer Lingus Gold Circle Club points. And flight services. Aer Arann operated a buy-on-board program similar to Aer Lingus. Sponsorship deals. Aer Arann was the main shirt sponsor of the Galway Gaelic football team, and has its logo on the back of the Connacht rugby team shirts, as well as sponsoring the Munster rugby team. On December 17, 2010, Aer Arann announced that it would be ending its sponsorship of the Galway Gaelic football team. Accidents and incidents. On July 17, 2011, ATR 72-212 registration EISLM was damaged beyond economical repair when the nose gear collapsed on landing at Shannon International Airport, Ireland. The aircraft was operating an international scheduled passenger flight from Manchester Airport, United Kingdom. There were no injuries amongst the 4 crew and 21 passengers on board. In popular culture, Aer Arann was featured in the 1997 romantic comedy, The Matchmaker, and in the 2014 film Carvery. See also, Aer Arann Islands, List of airlines, Transport in Ireland. References. Sources: GAR 1/4 NT Enders, Ed Flight International World Airlines 2010. Sutton, Surrey, England, Read Business Information. ISBN 978-1-898779-39-1. External links, official website.